Nicole and you're watching Bite Me. So today we have one of the most basic Indian recipes that you will ever learn, and pretty much everyone should know this if they're going to cook an Indian meal at home. If you want to impress some friends or impress maybe your mother-in-law to be, or just impress yourself in general, what we're going to make today is a very simple Jeera rice. I've heard people call this an Indian rice as well before. I think it's kind of like the Jeera pulao that you get in most restaurants, except it's homemade and it's better. So to start with, we're going to get a nice heavy pan, and this is a fancy pink Le Creuset pan. So you could use anything that has a heavy bottom pretty much. So we're going to start that on a high flame. We're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of any neutral oil. Okay, start with a tablespoon. Then we're going to add the most Indian thing that you can possibly find. This is ghee. And I don't think any Indian household actually measures how much ghee they're putting in their Jeera rice or in their rice in general, because that would be a crime. It's ghee. It's good for you. So this is about 1 tablespoon of lovely ghee. Oh, and it smells so good. As soon as it hits the pan, it's yummy. Alright. Now since this is a Jeera rice, what we're going to do next is add some jeera and some onions to be the base of the rice. That's what's going to give this lovely flavor. So it's not going to just taste like buttery rice, so to speak. So once your ghee has completely melted and the oil is hot, just test this way. Do not put your hand into the oil. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm going to add about a little less than 1 tablespoon of jeera. It is Jeera rice after all. Okay. And I'm going to get my trusty spoon. And you want a pronged ladle or spatula thingy to stir around, because you're going to be making rice and you don't want to use a flat, thick one, because that's going to break up your rice. Okay. So that's it. My jeera is going to start sputtering. And my kitchen smells so good already. Next, I'm going to add 100 grams of red onion, and I've just dropped some, but anyway, 100 grams of onion, and I've just sliced this thinly. Now, a lot of people add their other spices before they add the onions. I just add my onions so the temperature of the entire vessel comes down and my spices won't burn, considering that they're smaller. So just stir this around. Next, you're going to add about 6 cardamom pods. Because it's a simple recipe, I'm just going to use the plain green ones, or elaichi as we call them in India. About 8 cloves. Not sure what you call cloves in India. I'm pretty sure I know, I just can't remember. My mother would be laughing. Then you add about 10 peppercorns. Give that a stir. Make sure nothing is burning. And even if onions burn a little bit, you can just pick those out, so don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out. Okay. Gonna add 2 cinnamon sticks and 3 bay leaves. Now, if you were making a fancier Jeera rice, you could put other spices like star anise in them, and this, which is a mace flower, it grows over the nutmeg. And then you could also put black cardamom, which is black elaichi. But if you're going to put the black elaichi, make sure you don't put the green elaichi, because the black elaichi is super potent, like extremely, extremely potent. And it gives off this really lovely smoky smell. Okay. So we're just going to let that fry. I'm going to lower the temperature and let my onions soften a little bit. So I'm going to cover my pan at this point. Now, what I have ready with my rice is just normal basmati rice, fine long grain, and I washed it really, really well. Okay, so I've washed it at least about 10 or 12 times until all of the starch comes out. And you really want the starch to come out that way. You're going to get lovely singular individual grains of rice as opposed to it all just clumping together and looking like a horrible school rice pudding. This is how you're going to keep your rice nice and individual and separate. Okay? Just check on my onions. Eye on them. I'm going to keep them open now. Also, after washing the rice, I just let it soak in some water for about 5 to 8 minutes, not any longer than that, because that will cause your rice to break. So now that my rice is strained and dry and my onions are lovely and soft, I'm just going to add my rice. And when you add the rice, bring your flame back up and just stir it around. Now when you're stirring, what you're actually doing is coating every piece of grain in fat, and that way you're going to have your rice stay more separate as well. Okay? Now at this point I'm going to add double the measurement of liquid. So this is 320 grams or 320 milliliters of water. Just give it a nice stir. At this point, you're going to go ahead and add half a stock cube. You get the small Maggi stock cubes. This is just a chicken one and this is half of that. You just add one of them in. You could add a veggie stock cube. Even better if you had your own homemade stock, you could just use that instead of the water. The measurement would stay the same. So I'm just going to stir that around and bring my flame up to high. So I'm just going to stir it around so that the stock cube breaks up, because I don't want it to be in a big clump later on. There. Next, I'm going to add a little salt. I'm just going to add about half a teaspoon, because I'm taking into consideration the salt in the stock cube as well. I'm going to leave salt to your own discretion, because some people like less salt, some people like more. I'm kind of in between with my salt. Okay. Now once it comes to a boil like it is right now, make sure you bring your flame on low. Most important. Cover it. And you're going to put your timer for 12 minutes exactly. Okay, 12 minutes. Set it. Do not touch it for the next 12 minutes, and even after it's done, just come put your timer off and leave your rice alone. Leave it. Do not open the lid. The last moments of steam are going to help it get fluffy and cooked properly, and it's just going to be better if you leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't think about it. Leave it. So it's been 12 minutes. The alarm went off. I was a good girl. I did not open it to check it, so I left it for about another 8 minutes after the alarm went off, almost 10 minutes, so that my rice could cook in its lovely steam and be all fluffy and yummy. And now this is the big reveal. Ooh, that's hot. So I'm just going to grab myself a napkin here. And hopefully the rice looks really fluffy. So I bless you, rice. And we're going to open it up. Woo! That's it. That's the jeera rice all ready. And what I'm going to do now very lightly is get a fork, okay? And just fluff everything. Now you could eat this with a curry or with a vegetable or by itself with some pickle and curds. It would be delicious. I'm going to serve myself some right now. Oh, it smells so good. It's like a hug. It really is. It just smells like, it smells like home. Grab some fork. And you could pull out all of the whole spices if you like as well, if you don't want to serve them with the whole spices. But it doesn't bother me one bit. I'll just pull them off while I'm eating. Let's take a little bite. Oh. If you like, at this point you could even put some more ghee on top of it, just to make it even more rich and buttery and lovely. And this is perfect. I'm gonna have another bite. So if you're a single person and you've never cooked rice before, or you just want to try how to make a lovely, easy, simple pulao to go along with your food, this is Jeera Rice. And make sure you like, you share this, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more recipes like this.